Alright guys, in today's video we're going to do an actual review of this bike here, which is the 2021 Canyon Exceed CF7. Just to give a few basics of the bike, it is a cross-country race bike. It is a hardtail, it is a 100mm front suspension, full carbon frame. I do have about 250 miles on the bike now, so I definitely have it dialed in and I'm feeling really comfortable on it. So I felt like it was a good time to give a review on it. I do have an unboxing and build video and a first impressions video. I'll link those down below, so definitely check those out. So real quick, just to recap, if you haven't seen those, I bought this bike to be kind of a general purpose mixed use bike. So mix of pavement, this type of riding here, dirt road, gravel grinding, and of course some light single track trail. So briefly to explain my decision in buying this bike, especially for this type of use, I didn't really want another drop bar bike. I prefer riding flat bar bikes, but wanted something that was a bit more fun, fast, and efficient on this kind of riding. But if I did want to do some actual single track, it was certainly capable of doing that. So that's why I went with this bike here. Most of my miles on this bike have been this kind of riding. So again, dirt road, gravel grinding. I have done a couple paved rides, especially early on, to get a feel for the bike, get it dialed in. It is actually quite competent on pavement. Starting from the ground up, I'll go through some of my impressions on how this bike works. So this bike does come with some high quality tubeless ready tires from Maxxis. There's a 2.35 Icon in the front and a 2.25 Aspen in the rear. The bike is not set up tubeless yet. That is still on my agenda. We'll definitely be doing that soon. That will shave a little weight. In my experience, tubeless definitely performs better. On the upside so far, these tires do roll really fast. So again, on pavement, they do just fine. No vibration, no noise, roll really fast. And thus far, they're ideal for this kind of terrain. So gravel grinding, hard packed dirt. I've only done a little bit of single track with them and they've been quite good. If you watched my head-to-head video between this bike and my Salsa Bear Grease fat bike, you may remember I did make mention that this bike didn't really carry speed into corners very well over loose topsoil, loose rock, and that was all in the rear end of the bike. I think that was mainly due to the smaller volume of the rear tire. It is a fast roll and tread pattern, again designed for cross country. So the one thing I made change in the back is to put a larger volume, the same tire that's in front, the Icon, put one of those in the back and set it up tubeless. And I think that would really nail the setup for this bike. It would improve the comfort a little bit, probably the traction noticeably, and not sacrifice much, if any, on the speed on hard pack or even pavement. Moving on to talk about the frame. Again, it is carbon fiber. It is a very stiff frame, which is mostly a good thing. The bike definitely pedals extremely well. Like when you lay down power, it definitely squirts forward. On climbs, I'm more of the sit and spin type than the stand and mash. But I have tested it out and it does really shoot up climbs really well. And I've also done a few out of saddle sprint type things and it does really launch forward with each pedal stroke. A little bit of nervousness or skittishness the bike does exhibit in the rear end, I think will mostly be solved by just putting a little bit bigger tire back there, as I mentioned. I think that'll really nail down the setup for this bike. As far as the weight of the bike, it's about 25 pounds right now as ridden. It should lose some weight with the tubeless setup. Might be a couple other odds and ends I'll do to it, but it should easily get under 25 pounds. And you definitely feel it is a light, responsive bike at this price point. The drivetrain is the SRAM NX Eagle. It's my first experience with a complete Eagle drivetrain. It's 1x12, 34 tooth front chainring, 11 to 50 in the rear. So far I've been really pleased with the performance. Shifts are positive, quiet. I haven't really hit on some really rough terrain yet to see how the rear derailleur works, as far as if there's gonna be a lot of chain slap from it. But if I had to judge, this probably works a little better than my Dior in that it's quieter. They'll both shift very reliably. So overall impressed with the SRAM NX. Just to mention the brakes briefly, they are the SRAM Level T. Very satisfied with them. I don't really feel that they're standouts, but they definitely do the job. Well spec'd for the bike, no issues at all. So satisfied with these brakes on this bike at this price point. I do want to take an opportunity to talk about the shock. for a moment. On the website, Canyon lists the RockShox Recon RL fork, which isn't a fork I was particularly stoked about getting. To my surprise, this bike actually came with a RockShox Reba, which is 2, maybe 3 times higher up in the RockShox fork hierarchy, and it has not disappointed. It's been a very impressive fork. Not sure for the reason for the upgrade, but definitely happy to have it. I think it probably makes the bike a little lighter and a much better performer too. So again, 100mm front suspension, 32mm stanchions. The bike does have a remote lockout, which you can see right here. So that's fully open, and then that's locked out. That wasn't a feature I was particularly excited about, but I certainly use it, and it is convenient. It's probably most convenient if you're actually riding something technical and you have to have your hands on the bars the entire time. Definitely nice to have it bend. Previously, I've always had forks where you could actuate the lockout right here via dial. The one benefit to that is this fork is locked out or open, at least with the dial version. Usually you get a range that you can set it through, but effectively, even then, you're either going to have it locked out, wide open, or set in the middle. So this setup only loses kind of that mid setting, which isn't a big deal, certainly for this kind of bike or for what I'm using it for. I actually ride it locked out most of the time for this type of riding here, and even then the lockout isn't 100%. It's about a 90% lockout, but I have had it in some rough sections. Even out here where I ride, there'll be some really rough potholes and washboard, and I've opened up the shock and hit it at speed, and it just soaks it right up. So definitely does a great job. This bike is a medium. I'm 5'11". I often bounce right between medium and large for a lot of manufacturers, as was the case with Canyon. I could have ridden either size, but I did technically slot into the medium. And for this type of bike, I decided to size down instead of sizing up. On some of my other bikes, I do ride larges and prefer those for those bikes. But for this bike, the medium works great and feels good. I wouldn't call the bike a supple or comfortable bike, because that's not what it's designed to be. It is a carbon fiber hardtail race bike, but it's not uncomfortable. And as I mentioned earlier, tire choice, going tubeless, that'll give me the opportunity to put a little more comfort into the rear end of the bike if I so choose, but it's not bad now. So last, just want to talk about the contact points of the bike. So the seat, the cockpit, this has a race-based bar and stem combo. The bars are 740mm wide, so pretty narrow, but again, it is a cross-country race bike. No qualms with that combination. Down the road, maybe I will do an upgrade there, maybe some carbon bars or something. There was one thing on the bike that I did have an issue with, and I did swap out almost immediately, and that was the saddle. I'm usually not hypersensitive to saddles, and this bike came with a Cell Italia saddle that looked pretty good. But after the first couple rides, and those were on pavement, and those were wearing padded bike shorts, after about 15 miles, it was excruciating, so it had to go right away. We happened to have another saddle laying around that just wasn't getting used. It also happened to be Cell Italia, and it also happened to be a women's specific saddle, but I did put it on, and I've been using it ever since, and I'm very satisfied with it. It's light, really comfortable, and the white saddle actually sets off the white highlights of the bike quite well, in my opinion, so I think I'm gonna stick with it. So to sum things up, very satisfied with the bike. It's done everything I expected it to do really well. There haven't been any surprises or unexpected negative aspects to it. And I think it'll do really well long term for my intended use. And if I ever decide to do part upgrades to it, it will benefit from those as well. So at this price point, this bike is definitely on my recommend list. It looks great, it rides great, it's quiet, no rattles, no squeaks. And I'll be putting many miles on it this year. If you have any questions or comments, drop those down below. Any videos or anything you want to see me make with this bike, let me know in the comments. If you're enjoying the content, definitely subscribe to the channel. It does really help out the channel. We definitely have some rain in the forecast and some storm clouds rolling in. So I'm going to turn around and try to beat those back. So thanks a lot and have a great day.